The alien planet of Zarnax was a world of contrasts, a place where the grandeur of its towering crystal cities was matched only by the savagery of its underground arena battles. Ruled by the enigmatic and powerful Queen Exilira, the planet was a beacon of alien civilization and brutality. The arenas were the heart of Zarnax's entertainment, where the most brutal, rebellious, and murderous aliens from across the galaxy fought for survival and a chance at freedom. Queen Exilira, seated on her throne made of luminescent crystal, had watched countless battles unfold. Her eyes, a deep shade of violet, reflected both her regal composure and an underlying restlessness. Despite the countless warriors she had seen fight and die in the arena, none had ever truly captured her interest. In the deepest recesses of Zarnax's most notorious prison, a new prisoner had arrived. A human warrior exiled from Earth. His presence was an anomaly, a curiosity that quickly spread among the guards and prisoners alike. This human, known only as Kyle, had been sentenced to the arena, where his only hope of survival lay in his ability to fight and win against the most fearsome alien species. Armed with a special advanced sword of unknown origin, Kyle faced his first battle with a mixture of determination and uncertainty. The alien crowd, hungry for blood and spectacle, watched with bated breath. And among them, hidden behind her veil of authority and mystery, Queen Exilira found herself drawn to the human warrior in a way she had never experienced before. The transport vessel shuddered as it descended through the atmosphere of Zarnax, its engines straining against the planet's gravitational pull. Inside, Kyle sat shackled to a cold metal bench, his eyes fixed on the small window that offered a view of the alien world below. The landscape was a kaleidoscope of colors, with sprawling forests of bioluminescent trees and rivers of molten metal winding their way through jagged mountains. Kyle's mind raced with thoughts of his past life on Earth and the events that had led to his exile. He had been a soldier, a warrior trained in the art of combat, but nothing could have prepared him for this. His captors, a ruthless alien race known as the Korath, had deemed him too dangerous to remain on Earth. Now, he was a prisoner on a foreign planet, destined to fight for his life in a brutal arena. The vessel landed with a heavy thud, and the doors hissed open. Kyle was roughly pulled to his feet by the guards, their scaled hands gripping his arms with unyielding force. As he was led out of the transport, the harsh light of Zarnax's twin suns blinded him momentarily. When his vision cleared, he found himself standing before a massive fortress carved into the side of a mountain, the infamous prison of Zarnax. The guards marched him through the labyrinthine corridors of the prison, their footsteps echoing off the stone walls. Kyle took in his surroundings, noting the alien architecture and the oppressive atmosphere. The air was thick with the scent of sweat and fear, a testament to the countless prisoners who had met their end within these walls. Finally, they reached a heavy iron door. One of the guards activated the control panel, and the door slid open with a groan. Kyle was shoved inside, and the door slammed shut behind him. He found himself in a small, dimly lit cell, its walls adorned with strange markings and symbols. As he sat on the cold floor, his thoughts turned to the arena. He had heard tales of the battles fought there, of the warriors who had faced unimaginable horrors for a chance at freedom. Kyle knew that his only hope of escaping this place lay in his ability to survive the arena. But he also knew that the odds were stacked against him. He was a stranger in a strange land, fighting for his life against creatures he could barely comprehend. The days in the prison blurred together in a monotonous haze. Kyle spent his time training, honing his skills with the advanced sword that had been provided to him. The weapon was unlike any he had ever seen, its blade forged from a material that shimmered with an otherworldly light. It was a gift and a curse, a tool that could potentially save his life in the arena, but also a constant reminder of the battles that lay ahead. His first battle came sooner than he had anticipated. One morning, the guards appeared at his cell, their expressions grim. Without a word, they escorted him through the winding corridors and into the blinding light of the arena. The roar of the crowd hit him like a physical force, and Kyle's heart pounded in his chest. The arena was a massive, circular pit, surrounded by towering stands filled with alien spectators. Their cheers and jeers echoed off the walls, creating a cacophony of sound that threatened to overwhelm him. Kyle took a deep breath and stepped into the center of the arena, his sword held at the ready. His opponent emerged from the shadows, a hulking reptilian creature with razor-sharp claws and a mouth full of serrated teeth. The creature snarled and charged at him with terrifying speed. Kyle's training took over, and he moved with practiced precision, sidestepping the creature's initial attack and striking back with his sword. The battle was fierce and relentless, each of them trading blows with deadly intent. Kyle's advanced sword cut through the creature's thick hide, but it was clear that this was no ordinary opponent. The creature fought with a ferocity that matched his own, and Kyle found himself pushed to his limits. In a final desperate move, Kyle feigned a retreat, luring the creature into a false sense of security. As it lunged at him, he pivoted and drove his sword deep into its chest. The creature let out a deafening roar before collapsing to the ground, its lifeless body twitching in its final moments. The crowd erupted into cheers, their bloodlust satisfied for the moment. Kyle stood over his fallen opponent, his breath coming in ragged gasps. He had survived his first battle, but he knew that this was only the beginning. The arena held many more challenges, and he would need every ounce of his strength and skill to survive. Kyle's victory in his first battle earned him a brief respite, but it also marked him as a formidable contender in the eyes of both the guards and the alien spectators. Word of the human warrior's prowess spread quickly through the prison and beyond, and soon he found himself facing a series of increasingly difficult opponents. Each battle tested Kyle's limits, pushing him to adapt and grow as a fighter. He learned to read the movements of his alien adversaries, to anticipate their attacks, and to exploit their weaknesses. His advanced sword became an extension of himself, a weapon of unparalleled precision and power. With each victory, Kyle's reputation grew. The alien spectators began to see him not just as an outsider, but as a champion. The arena, once a place of dread, became a stage where he showcased his skills and defied the odds. Yet, despite his growing fame, Kyle remained focused on his ultimate goal. Queen Exalira watched every battle with increasing fascination. From her private box overlooking the arena, she observed Kyle's every move, noting his strength, agility, and unyielding spirit. There was something about the human warrior that captivated her, a raw, untamed energy that set him apart from the other contenders. One evening, after yet another victory, Kyle was summoned to the Queen's chambers. The guards led him through a series of opulent hallways, each adorned with intricate alien art and artifacts. Finally, they arrived at a grand set of doors. One of the guards knocked, and a moment later the doors swung open to reveal Queen Exalira standing in the center of the room. Queen Exalira's chambers were a stark contrast to the grim confines of the prison. The room was bathed in a soft, ethereal light that seemed to emanate from the walls themselves. Delicate tapestries depicting scenes of alien landscapes adorned the walls, and a large, intricately carved throne sat at the far end of the room. Kyle was struck by the Queen's presence. She was tall and regal, with an otherworldly beauty that seemed to glow from within. Her eyes, a deep shade of violet, held a mixture of curiosity and admiration as they met his. For a moment, neither of them spoke, the silence stretching out between them like a taut string. "Kyle," she finally said, her voice smooth and melodic. Kyle inclined his head in acknowledgement, his gaze steady. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I fight to survive." Queen Exalira's lips curved into a small smile. "And survive you have. But you have done more than that. You have thrived, risen above the challenges, and captured the hearts of many, including mine." Her words hung in the air, and Kyle felt a strange mixture of pride and unease. He had not expected to find favor with the Queen, nor had he anticipated the effect she would have on him. There was a magnetism about her, a pull that he could not ignore. "You honor me, Your Majesty," he replied, choosing his words carefully. Queen Exalira stepped closer, her gaze never leaving his. "Perhaps, but you are also a man, with desires and dreams of your own. I have always been curious about humans, about their endurance and fearlessness. You Kale, embody those qualities in a way that I find. She reached out and placed a hand on his arm, her touch sending a jolt of electricity through him. Kyle tensed, but he did not pull away. Instead, he found himself drawn into the depths of her violet eyes, losing himself in the intensity of her gaze. The atmosphere was intimate, almost surreal, and Kyle felt his pulse quicken as Queen Zalira stepped even closer. "I have heard much about the endurance and fearlessness of humans," she said, her voice a mere whisper, "but I have never had the opportunity to experience it firsthand." Kyle's breath caught in his throat as her hand moved from his arm to his chest, tracing the contours of his muscles. Her touch was light, almost reverent, and he felt an undeniable attraction building between them. "I would be very sad to see such a glorious warrior die in front of a ruthless alien," she continued, her fingers now resting over his heart. "You have proven your strength and resilience, Kyle, but there are other ways to find freedom." Kyle swallowed hard, his mind racing. He knew what she was offering, and the temptation was almost overwhelming. But he also knew that he could not abandon his quest for freedom, not when he had come so far. "I will bring the alien warrior's head to you in the final match," he said, his voice steady despite the turmoil inside him. "I promise you that." Queen Exalira's eyes sparkled with a mixture of admiration and desire. "Such confidence," she murmured. "It is one of the things I find most alluring about you." She leaned in closer, her breath warm against his skin. "But tonight, let us forget about battles and death. Let us focus on the here and now." Their lips met in a searing kiss, and all thoughts of the arena faded away. They moved to the bed, their bodies entwined in a dance of passion and desire. The night passed in a blur of heated kisses, whispered words, and shared intimacy. For a few precious hours, they were not a queen and a warrior, but two souls connected by an undeniable attraction. As dawn approached, they lay exhausted in each other's arms, the queen's head resting on Kyle's chest. She traced lazy circles on his skin, her mind still reeling from the intensity of their connection. "You must not fight in the final battle," she said softly, her voice filled with a rare vulnerability. "I cannot bear the thought of losing you." Kyle gently lifted her chin, his gaze meeting hers. Queen Exalira sighed, her eyes filled with a mixture of frustration and resignation. "I will help you escape, Kyle. We can find a way." But Kyle shook his head, his resolve unwavering. With a heavy heart, he rose from the bed and began to dress. "Thank you for tonight," he said, his voice tinged with regret. "But I must return to the prison." Queen Exalira watched him go, her heart aching with a longing she had never known before. As the door closed behind him, she knew that the coming days would be the hardest of her life. The days leading up to the final battle were a whirlwind of preparation and anticipation. Kyle focused on honing his skills, pushing his body to its limits in order to be ready for the ultimate challenge. The arena was abuzz with excitement, the alien spectators eagerly awaiting the showdown between the human warrior and his final opponent. Queen Exalira, too, was filled with a mixture of excitement and dread. She could not shake the memory of their night together, nor the deep connection she felt with Kyle. She found herself watching his every move, her heart aching with worry for his safety. On the eve of the final battle, she visited him once more. The guards, sensing the gravity of the situation, allowed her into his cell without question. Kyle looked up as she entered, his expression a mixture of surprise and determination. "Your Majesty," he said, rising to his feet. Queen Exalira moved to his side, her eyes searching his face. "I had to see you," she said softly. "I had to try one last time to convince you not to fight." Kyle shook his head, his resolve unshaken. Tears welled up in the queen's eyes, and she reached out to touch his face. "I cannot bear the thought of losing you, Kyle. Please reconsider." But Kyle only took her hand in his grip firm and reassuring. "I will survive, Your Majesty. I promise you that." Queen Exalira nodded, though her heart remained heavy with worry. "Then fight well, Kyle, and know that my thoughts will be with you." With a final, lingering kiss, she left his cell, her heart filled with a mixture of hope and fear. The day of the final battle dawned bright and clear, the twin suns casting a golden glow over the arena. The stands were filled to capacity, the alien spectators buzzing with anticipation. Kyle stood in the center of the arena, his advanced sword gleaming in the light. He could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on him, but he pushed it aside, focusing instead on the task at hand. His opponent emerged from the shadows, a massive, hulking creature with muscles like steel and eyes that glowed with a menacing red light. The crowd fell silent as the two warriors faced off, the tension in the air palpable. The battle began with a roar, the two opponents clashing with a ferocity that took Kyle by surprise. The creature was incredibly strong, its attacks powerful and relentless, but Kyle was fast, his movements precise and calculated. He dodged and parried, looking for an opening. The fight raged on, each blow sending shockwaves through the arena. Kyle could feel the strain on his body, the wounds he had sustained beginning to take their toll. But he refused to give up. He had come too far to falter now. In a final desperate move, Kyle managed to outmaneuver his opponent, delivering a devastating blow that brought the creature to its knees. With a final powerful strike, he severed its head, holding it aloft for the crowd to see. The arena erupted into cheers, the alien spectators rising to their feet in a wave of applause. Kyle stood victorious, his body battered but his spirit unbroken. He had done it. He had won his freedom. The aftermath of the battle was a blur of celebration and accolades. Kyle was hailed as a hero, his victory securing his place in the annals of Zarnax's history. He was awarded a vast sum of money, a small fortune that would ensure his future. But amidst the celebrations, his thoughts kept returning to Queen Xalira. He knew that their connection went beyond the physical, that there was something deeper between them. And so, when he received an invitation to her chambers once more, he did not hesitate. The guards led him through the familiar halls, and soon he stood before the queen once more. She greeted him with a radiant smile, her eyes shining with pride and relief. "You did it," she said, her voice filled with emotion. "You survived!" Kyle stepped forward, taking her hands in his. They stood there for a moment, simply enjoying the presence of one another. Then, with a shared understanding, they moved to the bed, their connection deepening with each passing moment. In the days that followed, Kyle and Queen Xalira spent every moment they could together, their bond growing stronger with each passing day. They talked of their dreams, their hopes, and their future. They announced their intention to marry, a union that would bring together the strength of the human warrior and the wisdom of the alien queen. The news was met with a mixture of surprise and excitement, the alien population eager to see what the future would hold. The wedding was a grand affair, a celebration that brought together beings from across the galaxy. Kyle stood at Queen Xalira's side, his heart filled with a sense of peace and fulfillment. He had found not only his freedom, but also a love that transcended worlds. As they exchanged vows, Kyle looked into the eyes of his queen, knowing that their journey was just beginning. Together, they would face whatever challenges came their way, united by a bond that was as strong as it was unbreakable. And so, the human warrior and the alien queen began their new life together, their love a beacon of hope and strength in a galaxy filled with endless possibilities.